So, America today is a multiracial society, and it's becoming more and more ethnically diverse as we speak. And we know this to be true based on both birth rates and immigration. Which, of course, begs the question, what exactly is it going to mean? Because I know, I get it, diversity is our strength. But historically, and both in the modern world, we can observe that racial and ethnic diversity is not something that tends to be a unifying factor for nations. As a matter of fact, as a general rule, we can observe that racial and ethnic diversity actually tends to be something in nations that leads to some degree of instability, if not total chaos, or it leads to authoritarianism. And don't just take my word for it. We can look at essentially any nation in Africa that was drawn along colonial borders. And by the way, ironically, this is something that left-wingers often complain about. Hey, the Europeans drew these borders without any regard for the ethnic groups that actually lived there and which ones you were putting together. Well, okay. Or we can look at a country like Iraq. There's a country that historically has had three major ethnic groups that did not want to live together and were often at odds with each other. And here they were lumped into one nation with one government. What did it lead to? Well, at first it led to authoritarianism. Saddam Hussein, being the total authoritarian that he was basically the only type of person who could keep those ethnic groups separated and not killing each other. And then what happens once that authoritarian was deposed of? Well, you got exactly what you would expect. Civil war, racial strife, and just utter chaos. So we know it to be true that generally that type of diversity is something that actually divides nations and makes it a lot harder for people to find things in common and reasons not to be at odds with each other. And you can call me all you want, but we know this is true, and this is something that, generally speaking, is the case. And this is something that left-wingers implicitly imply when they talk about places like Africa, acknowledge is the case. So with that being said, let's say hypothetically, you were a powerful globalist who wanted to erode Western nation states. In this case, you wanted to essentially destroy the United States. What would you have to do? Well, historically, it would have been much harder to figure out something. But in America today, it's really quite easy. All you would have to do is exploit the racial divide. That's all you would have to do. So let's say hypothetically, perhaps you decide that because Black Americans have historically, faced the most problems and persecution from the U.S. system, let's just say maybe you pick that as your group. All you would essentially have to do is convince that racial group that despite them physically occupying the land that is the United States, you would simply have to convince them that figuratively and philosophically, they do not live in the same nation. Metaphorically, all you would have to do is convince Black America that there is a sort of separate Black nation within the United States. And you do not even have to call for actual separatism, the actual creation of one. All you have to do is kind of keep this idea alive in Black America, that there is such a thing as a Black America and a white America. That's all you would have to do. So if you wanted to do that, again, with the goal of eroding the United States, tearing down the United States, some simple steps simply would be to create and foster that separatist anti-American attitude. So let's say hypothetically, perhaps some things you would want to do are, for instance, create a separate Black national anthem from the American national anthem, again with the goal of instilling in Black Americans that they are not actually a part of the regular United States of America. Perhaps you would go even further. Perhaps you would target one of the most cherished days in the United States itself, July 4th, our Independence Day. Perhaps you would create something, I don't know, hypothetically, by the name of, and I quote, Juneteenth National Independence Day with the intended goal of teaching specifically Black Americans that they have their own Independence Day. So you create their own national anthem, their own Independence Day, and their own just, cultural sense of independence from the rest of the nation. And effectively, what you have done is created your own racial enclave. Effectively, your figurative, non-physical Black nation within the United States. And literally by doing that alone, you have an unstated amount of power to just divide America against itself. To divide that house, as Lincoln puts it, against itself. That's honestly all you would need to do. And you guys wonder why I was so against Juneteenth National Independence Day? And I know a lot of conservatives basically had this response. They were like, well, honestly, to me, it's not a very big deal, but, right? And don't get me wrong, I think that at least that's better than all of the conservatives who openly celebrated the creation of a separate Black Independence Day. But still, I don't see this response as being enough. Like, no, it's not like, oh, it's not a big deal to me. It does matter to me. It's a very big deal to me that they're literally trying to recreate America's own Independence Day, to rewrite it, to create a separate Independence Day for Black America. How can I be the only one that sees this? How can I be the only one that cares about this and realizes what the agenda is here and how big of a deal it is? Because racial conflict, again, is something that has the power to destroy our nation. And based on the racial demographics of America, it's not hard to do. It's much easier to do than it used to be, obviously. So what, this is just not a big deal to you? You guys don't care that they literally passed the bill making Juneteenth into a holiday. And you wonder why I thought this was such a big deal. Was called the Juneteenth National Independence Day. You don't think it's a big deal that the Black National Anthem last year was played alongside the American National Anthem at NFL games? You seriously don't think this is a big deal. But man, so many conservatives just went along with it, assuming that the best intentions were at play here. When they never were, okay? This was never well intended to begin with. Because let's also remember how this whole Juneteenth thing started. Did it start as a bipartisan movement from both sides to celebrate emancipation? No, it didn't. That's what people forget. It did not start like that. Am I the only one who remembers that the way this actually started was because last year Trump was going to do his rally on Juneteenth, a day that nobody outside of Texas had heard of and even knew was a thing, and the left went crazy about it and brought up he's just doing it on Juneteenth, no, even though it wasn't even in Texas, right? Are we forgetting that this whole thing started as a means to cancel a Trump rally? But you guys didn't think that it would be used as an activist holiday. Yeah, of course it would. Of course it was politicized by the left wing from the start. And even if it didn't start in those origins, which should immediately turn you off from this whole holiday movement. Again, the movement to make this a holiday literally only started as an anti-Trump Democrat political weapon. But even with that aside, you seriously don't think it's a big deal that they're creating a second Independence Day? If that's the case, I don't know what to tell you. Because I think I've said enough. Again, it is something that is going to tear down this country. And as I promised, I would make a short video, explaining the reason why I was so against Juneteenth being made into a national holiday in the way that it was. Okay? But the fact that you're rewriting my Independence Day, that's a pretty big deal to me. It should be a big deal to you too. Anyways, guys, see you guys later. Alpha moves only. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to click some of the stuff on my left for some more awesome content. Also, to follow me on social media, check out my podcast, and some more awesome stuff, be sure to check out the links down in my description. All right? Peace.